From the beautiful campus of Casper College, it's the T-Birds Coaches Show, bringing you game breakdowns, expert analysis, and exclusive interviews. Here's your host, Tom Myler.
Hello, T-Bird fans, and welcome to another Casper College Coaches Show. It's exciting because guess what? It's basketball season. We start this weekend, and here with us we have Coach Tom Parks, head of the men's basketball program. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you for having me.
We love having you because we love talking basketball. What about you?
Yeah, I like to talk about basketball.
Just a little bit?
Just a little bit, yes.
All right, well, perfect, because that's what we're going to be doing today is talking basketball. We're going to get into a little bit about the end of the last season, kind of the off-season, recruiting-wise. Then look toward, what can we expect this season, especially with your first 2 home games, which is unusual for us because usually they're gone. But we get men's basketball right away. We love it. So let's talk, shall we?
Yes.
All right, so this last year, you start. It was your first year.
Mm-hmm.
This is now your second year.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you feel like that first year went?
I mean, I thought it went well. I mean, we had to sign 11 guys from when I got on campus in June.
Oof.
So, we had 3 returners. So that was challenging, but I think it's also like the world of college basketball. So it was an exciting challenge, but I think we had some really good returners that really embraced me and probably some things that were different from the past. And so that was a lot of fun. And, I don't think the year ended the way we wanted to. But I thought in our eyes it was a success. It was just hard because our team was really close and connected. So that was probably the hardest part, isn't like the fact that we didn't win a championship, is that, something good had to come to an end. So.
Right. And I mean, you started off a little rocky in that beginning of the last season. I mean, but first year head coaches, I feel like always kind of have that breaking in time that you got to really figure things out of your team and just how you want to run it yourself. And I mean, you figured out toward the end, you were on a roll. You were rolling, and then just something atypical happened where it's like we were missing free throws and turning the ball over. And I mean, you were still in it toward the end against Western Nebraska in the semifinal of the Region 9 playoffs, but just for some reason just didn't go your way.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I don't remember who told me this, but someone once said, like, good teams usually lose in a way that they typically don't, And so, we could have looked at a lot of different factors that would help us win that game, but 9 for 20 from the free throw line on the road is probably going to be hard to beat any good team, and we were playing the host team. So it was tough, but, I think that having returners on this year's team that experience the locker room after the game and experience that kind of environment, I think we're, very excited to attempt to host, and that's obviously a long ways down the road, but I think they saw like what that does for the host team and having, the backing of the crowd and being able to sleep in your own bed and things like that. And so that's obviously the ultimate goal is to host a, Region 9 tournament and to hopefully win a Region 9 tournament here in Casper. That would be, I think, a dream, especially for all those guys that were here last year that didn't make that happen.
Oh, that would be absolutely wonderful. And since you brought it up, you mentioned some of the returners. Let's talk about some of those returners and some of the impact that they will have for this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think, probably the most notorious name would be Abdul Bashir. I mean, I'll say he's the best junior college player in the country because I'm biased and I see him every day. But I also think from a recruitment standpoint and the respect that he has, amongst other coaches and 4-year programs all over the country, I think there would probably be other people that would agree with that statement. They aren't around him as much, but, he's special because he shoots the ball arguably better than anyone at any level in the country. Not many guys make 45% of their threes, making 122 of them as a freshman. And he does it in every single way. And so he's a really exciting player to watch, but he will take on a little bit different role in terms of, be handling the ball a little bit more. He'll be trying to initiate the offense because what people don't realize is how good of a playmaker he is and how high his IQ is. And so not only do we want to showcase those things, but I think it's also better for our team because there's so much, attention that will be on him in terms of shooting. I think that'll help us as a team. Other returners, Nate Sasser, start every game for us, average about 9 points a game, slashing, athletic, physical, strong, phenomenal human being. I mean, you can't not see Nate Sasser and see a smile on his face. So I think he just brings a certain light to our team that is really enjoyable. Nate Tallis got hurt in our first conference game, hurt his shoulder. Ironically, has re-injured the shoulder, but he'll be back eventually.
Right.
It just kind of depends on rehab, but it's not a season-ending injury. So we're excited to have him back. He was just starting to play some really good basketball at the time when he got hurt. Those are really the three guys that played a lot for us. Rohan Butler didn't play a ton, but he'll have a much bigger role this year. He also is just coming back from an injury, but he's been really good in the preseason the last couple of weeks. And then we have two guys that redshirted for us, Ethan Connery and Parker Davis. Ethan has grown probably more than any player I've ever been around in the last 12 months. When you talk about a redshirt year, I think certain players take a year off and kind of just coast. And Ethan and Parker both did a great job in utilizing that redshirt year. But Ethan, I've never seen someone improve that much. And I mean, I bet if you walk up to the gym right now, he's probably in there. If he's not, and he's not in class, he's in the weight room or he's in the training room, or he has got all these weird machines in his dorm that, I don't even know what they are. Red light therapy. And he's got a whole, they're all legal, but he's got a whole, drawer of supplements and all these. He's very like conscious of what he does every single day. And I think it has shown just how much he's improved. And he's got multiple Division I offers and more that are trying to bring him in for visits and stuff like that. So, and Parker's a really good shooter, and he plays hard, and, he's fairly local because he's a Fort Collins kid. So we'll claim him, I guess.
Yeah, we'll claim him.
But yeah, those kind of round out the returners. So,
hey, that's exciting to hear. And, when we're talking about recruiting too, so you lose some key players. How do you go? What's your mindset of saying, okay, well, I've got these returning. This is who I need to recruit. How do you go about that process?
I mean, I think every coach does it differently, but for me, it's about the puzzle, and it's about trying to, as a system, how you want to play, and the skills that you need to be good in that system. And it doesn't mean that every player has to have the same skill set, but I think you have to really look for, like, what are your voids? Like we knew we were going to have shooting. We signed some kids that also, brought some more shooting, but we needed some long athletic players. We needed a lot of front court guys. So we signed 4 guys that, are basically 6'8" and up, 6'8", 6'9", 6'9", 6'11". So, we signed 4 guys that I think from a size standpoint make us a much bigger team, help on the glass, but they're also, the majority of them are pretty like agile and can move and things like that, which will help pressing and playing fast, like what we want to do. But really, we also got to make sure we check off the character pieces. That's really important. I think we have such a small community, in Casper, Wyoming. Even though it's not obviously the smallest, it's still small in the sense that, like, everybody knows what's going on and everyone knows everyone's business. And we want our guys to be really good representations of the college too. And not just how they play on the court, but how they represent themselves when they're in the community, when they're eating, when they're doing things. And so, in class, walking around campus. And so obviously we have to check that off too. But we have a very diverse team, which is fun. A lot of kids from a lot of different backgrounds. Yes. And so that's, we had that last year. And it's hard because, like, Darius Robinson's a very hard person to replace. Josh EJ is very hard to replace. Malik Rebitz is very hard to replace. And you could go on Jaden Peters, but they were all really special human beings and special basketball players. And this is a different class, and they'll probably not be as good in certain areas, but they may be better in other areas. So we're excited. It's a fun group, and we're getting closer every time we take a long bus trip and things like that. So.
Well, and I mean, you even mentioned that before about last season that, you had a tight crew, and I did look at the roster. You've got Canada, you've got France, you've got Nebraska, you've got Maryland, you've got Wyoming, you've got all Florida, you got all across, the United States plus international. And so having to get them to work together and be a tight-knit crew, that's got to be a task in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely is. And I know every, coach and program probably has their own way of doing it. For us, it's about showing that there's a lot of value in every single role, and that one role may be more like glorious and more appealing and things like that, but it doesn't mean that that role also impacts winning more than a different role. And so really trying to get guys to buy into, there might be a guy that's just a defender, rebounder, hard playing guy, kind of like Kun Kwan, who we had last year, who it takes some time because everyone wants to shoot, everyone wants to score,
right.
Everyone wants to handle the ball, everyone wants to receive the ball. And, we have some guys that can really do that. And right now we're just in the process of really trying to make that role really attractive, even though maybe for their whole lives it hadn't been. And they also probably hadn't been in that role before coming here.
Well, and so let's talk about it then. So with talking about different roles, and we've had some preseason jamborees that you have gone to. What have you seen? How are the new guys, the returners, how are they meshing together? How are they filling in these roles? How are things flowing so far from what you've seen during those matches?
I think we're in the fermentation stage.
Okay. Letting it cook.
Really brewing right now. But yeah, it's fun because we've been on the road for 4 straight weekends. Oof. And I think I have set them up a little bit for failure in terms of the success we had. Like, you drive to Oklahoma and you spend 14 hours on a bus. You get up the next morning at 7:30. You play 3 games. You stay the night and you drive back. And we played some really good teams. But I think you can learn so much about your group, and also like you said, just them getting to spend time together. You think about that trip. We spent 3 hours playing basketball, right? But we spent 28 hours on a bus. Ugh. We spent time eating breakfast. We spent time getting some barbecue recommended by Nate Macy himself.
Ooh, right. Thank you, Nate Macy.
Yeah. Shout out Nate Macy, the barbecue legend. Okay. And so we spent some time doing some things like that. We got to practice at Oklahoma State. They gave us a tour of their Hall of Fame and some
cool.
different. Yeah. So I think those experiences were probably much more important in the long-term success than even those games itself. It was important that we were there. There was hundreds and hundreds of coaches, maybe the most attended jamboree in the country.
Wow.
And it was the first year they did it, but it was really centrally located. It was a good time. There was 60 teams from all over the country. I think we got the award for not the furthest, but the furthest that drove. So I'm still waiting for a plaque or something in the mail, but supposedly it's on its way.
Oh, you got a pat on the back then.
So we did win that.
I'll take it.
But we've definitely became a lot closer from these trips and things like that.
Okay. And basketball-wise, how are we seeing? I imagine you're not going to be in top shape yet. You're going to see a lot of holes. You're going to see people that's like, okay, we can improve there. What are some of those good things you've seen, but also some of those, okay, we can work on that?
Well, good question. So we spent a lot of time as a team this fall. I think we're limited to 8 hours a week until October 1st. And so we spent our 8 hours as a team. So in the previous years, it's probably the first year I've done. In the previous years, we've broken it up. We're going to do some small group training where we work on skill development, and and then maybe we'll have a day where we bring everyone together. And sure, we'll lift together, we'll condition together, but we really spent a lot of time on the court together in those 8 hours in terms of the whole team. And we really tried to set the foundation in terms of how we're going to press and how we're going to play fast and, our motion offense and things like that. And so I think we're much further ahead in those aspects. But I do think we have a system, and we saw it last year. We have a system that it does take a little bit longer. It's not that it's more complex, but I think the more we do it, the better shape we get in, and so while other teams that may slow the ball down, and I'm assuming they're practicing the way that they play, we're also practicing the way we play. And so we're getting up and down a lot, right? And so initially I think there are some holes, but the guys really are starting to gel together on the court. I think, our press is much further along than it was last year. I think the foundation of our motion offense is much further along. Right now, I think we have all these really good pieces offensively and defensively. We're just trying to get those things to fit, right? And so, we don't want Abdul to come down and feel like he has to take the first shot, but sometimes he might because he might not get it back. And so we're really trying to, again, make guys enjoy. Let me be the guy that makes everyone else look better. Let me be the guy that creates something for Abdul or creates something for Yale or Ethan. And so that's kind of the piece that we're struggling with right now and trying to really improve upon.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because men's soccer, Coach Ben MacArthur always says, we like assists because assists means goals.
Right.
And that's, what you just said. It's like if you got people with assists on the team, you know what that means? That means people are making buckets.
Right.
And so if that kind of team chemistry is going and people are making each other look good, how can you lose?
Right. No, for sure. And that's I think in the preseason we've had a lot of scoreboard watching, even though rules are different. We're not shooting free throws. And, in the Regis exhibition game, we got down about 15 like halfway through the second half. I think 16 halfway through the second half, and the scoreboard broke. And so a great thing it was an exhibition game, right? But the scoreboard went down. And so I had Nate Talich, who was out, just keep track of the score on his board, but we didn't share it with anybody. And it was something we've talked about a little bit, in the past, because it seems like we get down 15, all of a sudden we're down 25, because instead of playing the right way, we think that we can make a 15-point basket, which the last time I checked, that's not a real thing.
Not
at
yet.
least in one possession. Not yet, right? And so score went off, and like all of a sudden we just start like carving them up and moving the ball and getting the right stops that we need to get on defense. And so it was interesting. And then all of a sudden, like I think officially we lost by 6, but we had cut it I think to 4. And against a good team, a preseason ranked 3rd in the RMAC, which is a top Division II conference in the country, right? Yep. So like it was a good team that we did that, and so we couldn't watch the scoreboard, right? All we could do is go play basketball the right way. And so I think we've got to learn to do that, in the game and when it actually counts, and realize that it doesn't matter what we're down. Like that end goal of winning a region championship is really determined by like how good of a team we can become before that point, right? And so like we're not going to become a good team if we all of a sudden start forcing things and try to make plays on our own. We're just trying to put a Band-Aid on something versus like really trying to like grow as a team and get to that point. So that's really kind of been our main focus.
All right. Well, hopefully we can keep that focus going into this weekend. You've got your first regular season matches against North Idaho, and you've also got Air Force Prep, which sounds like there's a little history there with Air Force Prep, and we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about College of North Idaho.
Yeah.
North Idaho College, whatever one it is.
Yeah. They're a good team. They right when we started to play good basketball last year was when they came here, and I say that even though they had a 20-something point lead on us in like the first 10 minutes of the game. And we ended up like having a chance to tie it at the end. But they're traditionally a really good team. Region 18 opponent, which we play a number of those opponents this year. And those teams are really good. And there's a reason that they usually have 2 teams go to the national tournament from that region. So very well coached. Corey Simons has been there a long time. He does a really good job. He recruits well. They run some really good actions in the half court. They're, arguably their best player last year is a sophomore this year. So he's a freshman last year. 6'6" kid named Vaughn Weems, who's just really athletic, strong, physical, shoots it really well. And then they went and got a couple Region 9 transfers. Sam Marbury, who was at Central Wyoming last year, who I believe led the North and possibly the entire region during conference play in scoring.
Wow.
And they had a good year, yeah. So, and he's kind of running the point for them and running the show. And then they got another kid from Northeastern Junior College, who, basically I think he led them in scoring 16 a game. So
he's got some people that can make some
he does. And so, and they're, like I said, they're really well coached. I know they're excited to come here, and I don't know how many junior colleges open with a pretty high level opponent. I think we both are sitting here like excited and also like, what the heck are we, no warm-ups here, right. What I mean? So but it's fun. I think that's what people probably in Casper want to see. Like I don't know if it makes us better just playing somebody that we're supposed to win, right? We're supposed to beat. So it'll be a good team, and really excited for the challenge.
Well, and I definitely love, I've seen this with every coach, every sports coach here at the college. They don't shy away from a tough schedule. They embrace the tough schedule because it's like, well, how are we supposed to get better if we're playing teams that are, we'll just close one eye and beat them. We want the tough teams. We want to see where we need to improve, see what our medal really is.
Absolutely. Look at Angel's schedule. Holy cow. I was looking at that thing and I was like, and I knew some of those teams because being in Florida, and I'm like, you're playing who?
Yeah.
But again, I think it's important to see where you are early on and what you need to work on. So,
absolutely. So you have that one. So what do you need to do to be successful against North Idaho?
It's interesting because Coach Canary asked me, like, how much time do you spend on North Idaho or your opponent versus yourself? And I think it depends on the phase of the season. And like right now, we have so many things that we need to improve on. And so it's hard to like shift our attention too much to North Idaho. I think the things that we need to do well is we need to play with pace, which is something that we'll preach the entire year. We need to rebound. Rebounding is probably the ultimate factor in winning games, right? It's funny. We think it's scoring this and that, but rebounding impacts all those other things. And the more possessions you can gain from rebounding and the more possessions you can limit the other team from rebounding, the more possessions you get, the better chance you have to win the game, right? And so rebounding is going to be a big thing. And then just making adjustments in our press, depending on how they attack it so that we're not, we'll give up some stuff because that's just part of it. But really, if we do give it up, getting out of the net and attacking them right back and making them sprint back and guard and putting pressure on them early on in the clock, but making those adjustments so that we aren't constantly giving up easy buckets, especially the same way.
Right. So it's going to be a great game. We've got a couple of key things that you can be working on. So we'll focus on your game for this one. Air Force Prep, alma mater yours.
Yes.
A little bit of history there.
Yes.
So is this just, hey, you like to play them every year, or tell us a little bit about?
I hate to play them. I don't want to play them. There's a lot of prep schools all over the country, and there's a lot of prep schools that just, I think people call them pop-up preps because they just pop up, and they field a team, and then there's really good ones that you got your IMG Academies, your Montverts, and things like that, who definitely don't want to play them either. But Air Force Prep, I think the challenging thing with them is they're all recruited by the Air Force Academy. So they're all, technically, Mountain West level basketball recruits. They are usually in really good shape because they have to go through a bunch of basic training. I know when I was there, we started practice, I believe August 1st, and we didn't have regulations like they have, for us. So they're, doing full practices and things like that. They run a very complex system. We run some things similar, but not to like the complexity that they do. And so, it's going to require, at least on the defensive end, us communicating a lot, being in the right position. And like I said, they're also usually pretty talented. So, and they're well coached. I don't want to offend any of my former coaches, but probably my, most favorite coach that I've played for, Bob Cavera. He's always been kind of a mentor of mine, always been someone that I could count on for advice, especially in the coaching world. Very dry sense of humor, but just, I don't know. I think he's always genuinely cared about me, and we've remained in contact for, I feel old now, but it's probably, 16, 17 years, since I was there. And so I owe a lot to him from a basketball standpoint, playing career, but also just trying to get my foot in the door coaching wise. Like, he was always, an advocate for me and somebody that if he needed to make a call for me, he would. If he needed to write a letter of recommendation, he would. So I don't really, I'll really enjoy playing them if we have a hefty lead and we have like 2 possessions left in the game. Then I'll enjoy the last minute. But other than that, it's not going to be an easy one for sure.
Hey, and as we said before, we don't want the easy ones. We want the ones that are going to test us.
For sure.
So for this weekend, Coach, if you could have 1 or 2 things for your players to do, for things to happen, what do you want the team to do for you to be successful?
I just want to play basketball the right way, from an offensive standpoint. Good for great. We're going to get a lot of good shots, but can we get great shots? And then I think, the other thing is, and it's something I wouldn't say we've struggled with, but our expectations are really high. I think from like a toughness standpoint, I think we need to grow in that area. We've had a couple of guys out with shoulder injuries, and one of them is cleared to come back. And I told our trainer yesterday, like, it's not a good day to bring him back because we've been practicing kind of like a football team. Like, we've been just beating each other up and just trying to make practices much more difficult than what they'll be in the games. And so really just trying to display some toughness, both rebounding and scrappiness on the defensive end. So I would say just playing together on offense and just being the tougher team, throughout are probably two things that could help us get 2 wins this weekend.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we're definitely excited to cheer you on this weekend. 6 o'clock, is that when the games are?
5:30, 7:30. So we are at 5:30, we are not at 5:30, but there will be a good game at 5:30. We're at 7:30, and then whatever team we're not playing. So Northwest College is, I guess, hosting with us, so they're the team that we won't play. So Northwest will play Air Force Prep at 5:30 on Friday. We'll play at 7:30 that night, and then we'll flip it the next day on Saturday. So 2 games this weekend, 7:30 Casper College.
So lots of basketball. We love it. We're excited for you. We'll be there to cheer you on.
Cool. Thank you.
So hear that, Tiber fans. Be there to cheer them on. And, of course, we will see you next time.